Welcome to part 2 of Christian News and Interviews, where I'm asking the question, is Jamal Harrison Bryant, Pastor Jamal or Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant, is he a born-again Christian? Is he saved? Only he knows that. Only the Lord knows that. We can only speculate. But as born-again Christians, God invites us to examine a man's fruit. And so when I look at the fruit of Jamal Bryant, I'm not here to judge his fruit. I'm simply here to look at it. Ultimately, only God knows. But looking at his fruit, as I mentioned in part 1, his public fruit in terms of his community, what he's doing to help his community, A+. He does great things to help the community. He always has. But his personal fruit leaves a lot to be admired. Now, I'm going to advise you all to look at something else, because there's a reason for this man to constantly be in the news in a negative way. Number one, it could be that he's producing some terrible fruit. Number two, it could be that he's reaping what he has sown. So maybe he is living right now, but he's reaping what he has sown in the past. Or number three, maybe he truly has turned his life around. He's doing well, and he's under a satanic attack. I don't know. But if you are a born-again Christian and you're living right, you're doing right, you've turned your life around, I can tell you that the devil is not happy. And he'll do anything that he can to throw a monkey wrench in it. So ultimately, God knows. But I will say this. It's not helpful to anybody to just sit here and, girl, did you hear what he did? Girl, did you hear this? Did you hear that? That's not helping anybody. And if you're a born-again Christian, you know that that's not of God. And so I would say, instead of us getting on the phone saying, girl, did you hear this? Or, man, did you hear this? I would say that we do what, there used to be a bumper sticker that said, what would Jesus do? And so in this case, I asked the question, what would Jesus do? If he had a young minister out there or an old minister out there whose fruit is always looking rotten, his fruit is always questionable, he's always in the middle of turmoil, it's never positive. I mean, Peter was a mess. Peter was a mess. Remember, he took that sword and chopped the man's ear off. Peter was a mess. But God loved Peter. And Peter was a great minister. Some of Peter's fruit was questionable. Remember he got angry and cursed that woman out? Peter was a mess. But God never got rid of Peter. Even at the very end, where Peter was terrified to admit that he knew God. And he denied God 3 times. God still loved Peter. Some of Peter's fruit was questionable. And so, but Peter was born again, for real. And so I will end by saying this. Just as God loved Peter and Peter was imperfect, what would Jesus do? I believe he would do the same thing for Jamal that he did for Peter. Jamal has some issues. There's no question about it. He's going through right now because, as I said earlier,